Hello everyone, this is Nick and welcome back to another video. Now, I know there hasn't been a video in a couple of weeks, and I'm sorry for that. I've just been very busy and I actually went away for a bit of that time. Now actually, the school term has now finished. I'm now actually on summer break, which is really cool because that means that I can put more effort into making quality content for my channel. So that is a great thing. Now today I have actually got another tutorial for you, and I'm going to show you how to paint a vase of flowers in watercolour, and I'm also going to use a bit of coloured pencil as well for details. Now the first thing you're going to want to do in this very easy tutorial is you want to do your sketch. Now I actually have a vase of flowers in front of me, as you can see. I've got one in the top right hand corner, but I also took a photo of it so I could get all the proportions and the right angles and the perspective right. But if you don't actually have a physical vase of flowers, then what you can do is you can look up on the internet on photos of vase of flowers, or you could even just make it up from your head by looking at different types of flowers. So once you've done your preliminary sketch like I've done here, what you're going to want to do is you want to not erase the lines, but you want to lighten them, so when you paint with the watercolour over the top, the paint won't get muddy because of all the graphite. So that is the first step. Once you've done your sketch, then you can move on to the painting. Now I'm using Reeves Watercolour paints, Cotman watercolour paper, Prismacolor Premier coloured pencils, and obviously just a pencil and a eraser, as well as a standard paintbrush to do everything else. Now to start off with, I'm working on the greens. Now as my vase of flowers is very green, there's a lot of leaves and foliage, what I'm doing is I'm starting off with a base colour of yellow. So anywhere where the actual colour of the part of the flowers, if that makes sense, is green, I'm going to paint with an undertone of yellow. This just really helps the green actually stand out more. So once you've painted that base colour of yellow, you can then, once that's dry, start building up your greens on top. So I just use different shades of green just to build up on top the different depths and shadows. Now you want to take your time with this, you don't want to rush it, because obviously the more time you put into it, the more realistic it's going to look. And another thing to add to that is when you're doing your sketch, the more detailed your sketch is, then the more realistic your final piece is going to become. But because I was a bit tight for time, I decided to do mine a bit more kind of abstract, so not hyper realistic. Now as you can see, I'm just using a light pink purple just to add in the undertones for my flowers in the vase. So I'm just kind of building up with my blues and the greens and just adding different depths to all of these different parts of the flowers. Now watercolour is all about letting the layers dry before building up again, so you've got to be patient. And if you feel like you're not a very patient person, what you can do is you can get a hairdryer and you can just quickly dry the layer so you can move on to the next one, and that's like a more quicker way of doing it rather than having to wait for the paint to dry manually. Now as you can see, I just started adding a bit to the actual vase itself. Now glass is quite hard to actually make or paint, so you have to kind of take your time, but you just got to really look at your reference or your vase to try and see all the different colours, because obviously there's water in there, so the light will be refracted. So you just really want to take your time when looking at that, and I'll talk a bit more about that when I actually get onto finishing that off. But as you can see, I've been carrying on with the leaves, and I'm now using blues to shadow. So you really want to try and use lots of different colours to add shadows. Like I use some red as well to add some shadow to the green, because obviously green is opposite to red on the colour wheel. So red is a good colour to use when it's a complementary colour, so it's a good colour to use when shading greens. Now as you can see, I was just lighting up the pencil lines around the vase even more before I'm actually now carrying on with it. So I start off by obviously painting a light wash for the water using a pale blue, and then I'm building in with all of the colours which would be reflected off of the plants and foliage above. So I added a bit of green, etc., and kind of blues, and a bit of yellow as well, and a little bit of purple in places. But now I've decided, if you want to, You can actually carry on with the watercolour and add most of your details with the watercolour. However, I decided to carry on and finish off my piece using coloured pencils. So what I'm going through is I'm getting different coloured pencils to add in all the different details. Now to start with, I'm using a dark green to add all of the different details and shadows. And you want to try and vary the different shades and colours that you use. And you also want to make sure that you don't just start outlining different parts, because otherwise that's going to make it a little more cartoony and not as realistic as you would like, especially for this type of thing. So I'm just going over the different flowers now, using different shades of pink and purple to add the different colours, and also adding different colours to the vase to try and make it as realistic and good looking as I can, because glass is, like I said, is a very difficult thing to paint. So I'm just carrying on going through with my coloured pencils, adding all the different details, and bear in mind you can lighten colours with a lighter coloured pencil, and that can also make things look more kind of creamier and look a bit nicer in different places. So you just want to keep adding your different hues and your different tones to each part of the piece. And I'm also decided to add this kind of very yellowy green, kind of limey sort of colour to the different place, kind of tie everything together, so I have kind of a cohesive colour throughout which kind of ties everything together. So I use some of that yellowy green on pretty much everything in the piece. So while I'm just carrying on doing that, I'm going to talk a bit about my online store, which is now kind of officially up and properly running now, because before there's a few problems, but I fixed all of that, and I've got different products and hopefully new ones should be coming on soon. And actually the next person to order something off my store will get an original piece of artwork from me, so that's really cool. So if you buy a physical item from my store, then you'll also expect to get a little extra piece that comes with it, which is really cool. So click the link in the description to go check that out, as you know, you might find something you quite like there. So that's a bit about my store, but now back to the actual tutorial. So I'm just going through with different greys and kind of blues and pinks, all going through just making all of the different details and shadows more noticeable. You just want to keep working at it until you eventually feel like it's a good place to stop. Now that's completely up to you when you decide to stop, but you just got to keep working at it until you think it looks best. Now as you can just see, I just went back to the watercolour to add a bit of the shadow underneath, and that is pretty much it for mine. That's my piece done. I hope you learned something from this video, because that's what I aim to do with these videos, so I hope you enjoyed it. Here is the finished piece that I did after adding all of the different coloured pencil and watercolour. I even add some highlights with jelly roll as well. So that's the finished piece. I hope you enjoyed this video, everyone. Make sure to check out all my social links. There'll be links in the description below, as well as, like I said, my online store. And yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. Make sure to subscribe for weekly art videos every Sunday, and I'll see you next week with another video. Goodbye.